the storytelling part is what drew me initially into advertising. You get to reach people and expose your brand, your story to consumers in novel ways that make an impact, where it's about trying to win the hearts and minds of consumers, to not just bring awareness of your brand, but create brand loyalty. Just focusing on trying to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time and place was really the first principles of marketing. And in many ways, I really miss the broadcast media era, the golden era, because things have gotten complicated.
Kenneth G. Brook the third. Welcome.
That's how we're starting it now.
I only bring it up because I was 1 month away from being Edward von Kiener the third.
Okay.
And family stuff happened and I became Eric.
That's funny. Well, I was actually supposed to be Sebastian, but I don't know what happened. I guess my dad, being Kenneth, obviously, was like, "Oh, can we please call him Ken?" And then my mom was, fine, whatever.
My mom was the opinionated one. That's why that one worked.
Yeah.
But so you are founder, currently running AdPrompt AI.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just start your entrepreneurial journey. You've been doing it for almost 15 years from what I can tell. And
Yes.
It looks like back in 2011 with Sinvara was your first kind of jump into owning marketing. Is that right?
Owning marketing. I wouldn't necessarily call it owning marketing, but it was my, the early days of my entrepreneurial career where I was, I incorporated a business. I started, I ran the business. I brought on clients. I was doing custom software development. It actually started prior to Sinvara. And it's funny, I was like, what do we call the business? And I was like, Sinvara sounds cool. But
what is the mashup
nothing.
there? Nothing?
Nothing. It just sounds technical. Yeah. I was like, Sinvara. And then we later went on to Sinvara Social. I was working with a buddy of mine. But prior to Sinvara, I was on Craigslist, and my career really started on Craigslist, which sounds
interesting.
Which sounds funny.
That's very garage, like grassroots.
Well, I was living in my cousin's garage in Agora Hills, California. So I moved right out of college. I moved back to California. I was in Arizona running track and cross strategy for ASU, and so I was just responding to jobs, wanted section in Craigslist. People were saying I need to build a mobile app. I got $400, and I was like, "Give me $200 and I'll figure it out." Give me $200 when I figure it out and give it to you. And then I just built a portfolio of work, and that was the start.
I'm so familiar with that. I didn't even go to college. I got hired at a tech startup in Silicon Valley just to push papers when I was like 17 for the sales team. They had a great sales team, but they were not very organized. So I came in to help organize like back of house stuff. And I had an engineer come up to me and said, can you design white papers? I'm like, sure. So I spent 150 hours on YouTube teaching myself Photoshop.
University of YouTube.
Yep. Yeah. And then from there, they're like, can you run a trade show? I'm like, sure. Design the booth, all this stuff. And then, can you make videos? Can you do this? And I mean, obviously the quality back then was awful, but 4 years of doing that got me into Cisco Systems as a product marketing manager. And then spent time, at the time, it was the #1 Google rated agency in the US as a key accounts rep. So I was selling marketing and doing a lot of like consultation advising.
Got it.
So I'm very familiar with the sure, I can figure that out.
Yeah.
I need money.
And when I in the early days, what I loved about software engineers, like the programmers doing a lot of the coding, because I was just butchering JavaScript myself and it was taking forever. And I would have to annoy people online, the different, developer forums. But what I learned early on was that people were so willing to help people in the software development space online. And it was really cool. It's like Substacks and this, SourceForge and all these places that I didn't know existed as a resource. Yeah. And people would go out of their way and were willing to help, for free. I didn't have any money.
I find that true in life. I've learned to ask for coaching. I was just at a CMO conference in Vegas earlier this year, and the CMO of Hitachi was speaking, and I was pretty active. I had real questions. I wasn't just trying to like schmooze or anything, and he was answering questions. And after, I was like, I found that so valuable. He's like, here's my cell phone number. Call me anytime. It's like,
wild.
Oh, yeah. And that happens. I think you just have to be bold enough to ask. Yeah. People want to help.
I think, having lived in Los Angeles for a long period of time and working out of San Francisco and New York, uh, it was it was harder to just people were not as approachable, as when I moved to Boise, where I could just meet anybody and schedule a meeting, and it was great.
Extremely different
Yeah, it was very
culturally.
different.
I had some Boise shock when I got here. I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? The DMV is actually a good
Oh
place?
my gosh, I talk to a human. It's like I just set up power, or like, and it's like they return my call, and it's like I go to the DMV and I get my license,
Yep.
and everything works. And I was like, people are friendly, it's clean. I was like, all right,
And that's really what brought you here, right? Because you have a long history of being involved in many things across a lot of industries. And you came here because of probably the how busy and crazy life is in the LA area.
yeah. I mean, I would say different industries, more so primarily in advertising technology. That's my background. Sinvara Social being my first startup, uh, which just saying it out loud is kind of wild to me. It feels like a lifetime ago, many lifetimes ago. In many ways, it is. But I got into analytics, and I was trying to build a social media chatter. I call it a chatter tracker, where a brand could type in keywords, and then I would go out and scrape, like Foursquare, back when like
Yeah,
Foursquare
yeah.
was a thing. And so I was just trying to return valuable information to paying subscribers. And I'm like, this is going to be it. I'm going to be a millionaire. Like but it's hard building tech startups. It's very hard. And so, Google Analytics kept releasing free updates, and I had to justify having people pay for my service, my product. And it's just tough without a budget. I was living actually in my aunt's house in Carlsbad, California, for free, and I was doing her landscaping and chores, and I was outsourcing whatever revenue I could scrape together to Ukraine at the time. I was working with this guy Vitalik, and I called him Vitamin V, and I would just stay up all night on Skype, and I was just grinding.
Yeah.
I didn't really know anyone in Carlsbad, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I was trying to do it. And I've learned every step of the way. I've been learning.
That's all there is. There's winning and learning,
Yeah.
succeeding and learning for sure. So this is Tech Talks. We like to have the conversation revolve around technology. Often it's more on the like back of house development stuff. But I'm excited to jump in on this one because marketing is my world. It's your world. We'll probably focus way more on AI is what I'm hoping because you're very involved on like the front end, cutting edge development of AI, which is rapid. I mean, the way it's changing is so incredibly fast. But before we jump into the technical weeds of that, I want to set the stage for the people that don't quite understand marketing. I find I have a lot
Sure.
of conversations where I think it's a like an understood concept, but let's just talk about why is marketing important across the board.
I think kind of going back to the golden era of advertising, marketing, broadcast media, where
Hmm.
it's about storytelling. You get to reach people and expose your brand, your story to consumers in novel ways that make an impact. Where it's about trying to win the hearts and minds of consumers. To not just bring awareness of your brand, but create brand loyalty, where you
Right.
have people paying for whatever product or service you're selling. And so broadcast media, television, radio, print, it was a one-way message to consumers. We didn't have the internet back then for broadcast, and so just focusing on trying to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time and place was really the first principles of marketing. And in many ways, I really miss the broadcast media era, the golden era, because things have gotten complicated.
So complicated.
And we'll get into that, I'm sure. But the storytelling part is what drew me initially into advertising. But for marketing, yeah, for people to understand, it's gotten very complicated, unnecessarily so in many ways. But really, it's just about storytelling.
Yeah, we follow a lot of Donald Miller's stuff, story branding.
Okay.
So in our messaging, it's not to the T, but it's a lot about we're here to help you. You're already doing great things. Let us help you guide you to
Yeah.
even more great things.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
if you see an ad and you actually purchase a product and it's helpful and it's what you were hoping for or better, and it adds value to whatever you're doing with your life, like that's a great ad.
yeah,
It,
totally. I was sitting back to the coaching thing. I sat across the table from Andy Scoggin. He's the ex executive VP of Albertsons,
mhm.
not a small company, and he now does investments, Scoggins Capital Investments. But I sat across the table at an event, and I'm like, Andy, I'd like to be a CMO one day. What would you say to me? He goes, I'd say let's go to lunch. And I was like, whoa, I get to go to lunch with this guy. This
Yeah,
is
that's
awesome.
cool.
And he shared any successful entrepreneur or CEO, a good one, has two of the three things that's required in business. There's operation, there's sales and marketing, and there's finance. Those are the three basic arms. And a good leader will be good at two of those, but a great leader will be good at all three. So I think having a concept of marketing and how to speak about a product or service in a way that's not just, I made this awesome thing, but really like this awesome thing is going to make your life so much better.
Mhm.
I think that's the magic of it.
Yeah, I mean, making the consumer the hero of their own story. I think for me, over the years, what I've noticed is that some brands that win, they create communities, around a product that they sell. Like
Yeah.
Red Bull is an example.
Liquid death.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we canned water,
Yeah.
which gives people life, called it liquid death, and they're killing it.
Well,
Like,
you know the background of that?
no, I don't know the full
He
story.
he tried to do a bunch of things. He was like skateboarder, punk rock kind of group. And I guess musicians were that Monster primarily sponsored every big concert.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to drink a bunch of caffeine all day. So they would pour it out and
Mm,
fill it with water and then
that's
drink
funny.
that. And so he's like,
I
I
get
think I
that.
can do something with that. And their marketing, I mean, some people tout him as like one of the best modern marketers.
Yeah.
And they'll take things like somebody tweeted, I'd rather lick the sweat off the back of a fat guy than drink liquid death.
Oh,
And they
jeez.
turned it into a commercial where they brought the guy from Jackass in
Yeah.
and he got really sweaty on a treadmill and people like licked
Oh, the
him.
large guy.
And then, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then drank liquid death. And they're like, 10 out of 10 real people would prefer this. And it's
Yeah.
just, man, that to have that level of cleverness is wild.
Yeah, Jackass. That kind of takes me back. When I first was getting online, I remember the AOL disc. America's Online.
Oh, the noise,
Like,
I can feel the
everyone,
noise.
everyone got that disc. I think at one point, AOL was shipping over 50% of every CD, every disc in the world. Yeah, they spent like tens of millions of dollars, I think, to just essentially just airdrop discs to everyone's front door to get America Online, and
Yep.
it worked. That sound became
And the dial-up
synonymous.
sound.
Yeah. So going back to what is marketing and how it's evolved to today, it started with one-way messaging with broadcast, but then with the internet, you had the ability to share information on a so Web1 would be a static web page where you could host information,
Mhm.
but now you can direct people to this digital piece of real estate and you could have information there. So you could have a radio ad, tell someone about a product, then you can direct them, to a website. So that was new. And then Web3 was interactive, where people could now interact with web pages. It's a two-way conversation. So brands can now have a conversation and they can engage and have different types of, I guess, experiences with their consumer or their target audience. And so Web2 was really what gave rise to the behemoths that we have today, which is like Meta, Google,
Right.
the applications that were built on top of the internet, because people don't really realize that there's 7 layers of the internet. And the internet was designed to be open, and the internet protocols that powered the internet, which made it work, like HTTP as an example, would be a protocol that would allow people to surf the web, where it's going one web page to web page, and then you have data transfer protocols, TCP, TCP/IP, and then you have all of these layers that started to kind of get developed for the security and just governance of the open web. But what happened is that those protocols weren't designed to capture the value that was generated by the web.
Mm-hmm.
So the applications were the ones that were siphoning the value and capturing all of the value, which is why we have, Google and Meta. These are the most valuable companies in the world. And then we're now kind of going from Web 2 to Web 3, which is more of a decentralized web. You have Bitcoin being the first, mass adopted technology that's on top of a distributed ledger. So that came out in 2009. It took a long time to get mass adoption, and people are still trying to figure
Still
out.
skeptical. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
Some.
it's an experiment,
Yeah.
right? We don't know. We don't know what happens when every Bitcoin is mined, and then it's just what does that network look like over time?
Yeah.
And so it's not. I mean, the internet is an ongoing experiment, and so where we are now is Web3 in many ways invert the way value is being captured online, where the protocols are now capturing the value. So a distributed ledger network like the Bitcoin blockchain powers this Bitcoin network, and the value of an asset which is native to that network, which is Bitcoin, is worth now over 120,000 because of, well, how do you value the network? What's the ability to guarantee that when I send you this asset, it gets to you 100% of the time without having to go through these intermediaries? So that's a novel, it wasn't an invention. It was just a novel combination of existing technologies that made up the Bitcoin blockchain. And I think that was, for me, 2013 was when I saw the opportunity to maybe hopefully bring that type of decentralized technology to advertising to solve a lot of the problems that, from 2011 getting started in analytics, which got me into advertising. I learned running ad networks, some fundamental problems in advertising, online advertising, which is the economy of the free internet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to fix these problems because it's really important. It's still very important.
We're talking about the progression, and obviously what you're doing with ad prompt AI is utilizing what's at the forefront now, but I don't think we should jump into that until we have a better grasp of what incentivized LLMs are. Even I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around how does an LLM use something like rewards versus punishments, carrot stick, to prime its responses. So can you just professor me for a little bit on that one?
I mean, I can try. I mean, I just share experiences and knowledge I've gained from just doing tests and experimentations. But really, it's an incentivized LLM is just a different way of looking at how to, I guess, incentivize behavior and outputs and outcomes. And if you could verify an outcome and say, is this outcome better or worse? Or, is it good? Is it bad? There's this binary and verifiable, reward that you can give to a large language model. Then it'll start to, using reinforced learning, iterate and improve, self-improve.
So what's the reward specifically?
Well, this is where we get to, this is the experiment that we don't know fully yet.
Okay.
But you could potentially use cryptocurrency as a reward where if there's a human in the loop involved for approvals. So you kind of have to break it into pieces where in order to have a network that you can optimize in more meaningful ways, there needs to be accountability of the operators of that network. And so oftentimes when we talk about AI, we're getting into automation. And so if you're giving I guess if you're as a human are authorizing this agent to act on your behalf to complete tasks, how do you know that you can trust this agent's work, especially when they're working with this autonomous agent and that autonomous agent, and then you have this whole automated workflow. How are you accessing? Are you able to audit all of those inputs, outputs? Are those transactions transparent? Where is it being aggregated here? And you have to look at this agent for the data. Like, how is this all working? So this is kind of where we're at right now with agentic internet, with autonomous agents automating workflows, working agent to agent to complete tasks. And so going back to the incentivized LLM, if you have an agent that is punished because it's not being honest, because the outputs maybe are not consistent or the guardrails aren't working for this particular agent, it's not reliable within the network, then its reliability score could, hypothetically, it could have a score.
Okay.
Right? Like a reputation score.
And who's responsible for the governance of those guardrails?
Well, in digital advertising, it's the IAB. So the Interactive Advertising Bureau is a nonprofit organization. It's a trade body that represents and governs the global digital advertising industry, which is $1 trillion industry.
Right.
So it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
And those rails are protocols like OpenRTB, which is real-time, bidding. So, I mean, this is kind of technical, and a lot of people, when they don't fully understand marketing, this is
We're
going to be,
so in the weeds right
well, I know,
now. We're talking to like 1% of the people that are just like dialed
but
in.
this is part of the
Yeah.
problem. I would say that this is important that people start to understand how technology works because we're dependent on it. And so when you're fully dependent on your phone and you have no idea how the phone works,
Yeah.
or the algorithm that's giving you information that you act on, that you're not just acting on, but you're now addicted to, how does that work?
That's an interesting point. And I was just in a Vistage meeting at a very long AI presentation. And MIT, I learned that MIT did a study where 95% of AI operators, people prompting, whether it's shadow prompting, using it like for themselves at work to try to do better at work or whatever the case is, however they're operating in that space, it's 95% of that operation does not affect the ROI on the P&L
Hmm.
because people don't understand how to use the tool effectively or properly or the right tool for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. It got my wheels turning on. I got back and brought my whole marketing team together. I'm like, guys, we got to look at this more closely.
Mm-hmm.
We got to look at everything we're using, make sure it's working correctly, make sure we reach out to the right people with the right tools. And
Yep.
yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, you as a CMO, you're now more of a chief marketing, orchestrator, where you're orchestrating these agents and tools, these services, and of course, people. You want to
Yeah.
augment your team with the right tools, optimize a processes that you have in place for operations, realize operational gains, reduce operational expenses. Then you start to see the P&L change.
So this is a perfect time to jump into how does ad prompt AI effectively work in a way that produces results?
So right now, with where we're at, ad prompt AI is really the intelligence layer on top of a decentralized infrastructure. And I'll get into why these different layers are necessary to solve major problems in the advertising industry. But you can think of ad prompt as an AI native web application that customizes an agent that represents a small business, who on the demand side would be the advertiser. And so we've given this agent access to marketing tools, right? To, post on social media, to create, a creative asset, to schedule posts across multiple channels, to self-optimize, to take over A/B testing, all of that operational work that typically a team at an agency would do on behalf of the advertiser is now automated within our application. So we have a platform that we're building out to create an agent-to-agent marketplace to connect buyers and sellers of local advertising media.
So essentially, when I purchase the service, I'm hiring most of a marketing team when it comes to the demand side of things.
So it's a freemium model. So you just sign up for free, and then you just give a URL. It could be a URL for a social media, page, anything that's relevant to your business. And then we will scrape the internet, build out a profile that powers an AI agent that represents your business and already understands what an optimal, marketing campaign might look like for your business, given your objectives, and, marketing strategies that business owner or person may not understand. And then take out the complexities of marketing, especially especially complexities from an operational standpoint, start to automate all of those workflows that would require a CRM, that would require Canva or CapCut, or all these tools that marketing teams use. But that's still part of like a team, a professional team that provides professional services, like an advertising agency.
Yeah, which you're going to be spending like $6,000 a month on,
which small business owners can't afford.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just make sure that we can start to provide these professional services in a meaningful and easy way, right, for small business owners, so they don't have to pay $6,000 to an agency to hopefully have that agency spend their money, effectively.
Now, how much independence can be built into this system? And where my mind is going is like UTM or GA4 tag manager, putting specific tags in specific places because I really want to measure the customer journey and which part of the website is working best.
That's all fundamentally breaking right now.
Okay.
So it's undergoing a transition, and the legacy incentive models and supply chains of advertising channels, they're fundamentally changing. So what's happening is AI is not just generating content or providing suggestions. It's compressing the entire life cycle of a marketing campaign, where now this AI it can execute and handle a marketing campaign end to end from ad creative to consumer purchase.
Okay. So the customer journey becomes less important to look at with a magnifying glass, because the intelligence level of what it's building in the first place and looking at the efficacy of the campaign itself is
Definitely
really
don't
the
take away the magnifying glass. You're just no longer looking at these query strings and these tags, server to server, and managing, all of these tags, and then, getting all of these pixels, right? And data
yeah.
sources,
Yep.
and then aggregating as many data sources as you can to analyze those reports to make, decisions on how to optimize performance. That's changing.
How does ad prompt work with when it's, because you do it can build landing pages
Yeah.
too for you. So how does that work from like a UX UI perspective? I'm sure there's brand packaging that can be uploaded, or at least colors and text
Yeah,
and stuff.
so we're actually rebuilding the entire front end UI UX right now to be more, agent driven. The user journey across the ad prompt platform is going to be more conversational, more driven by the AI assistant. And so, um, but yeah, how it works is our system will generate assets that the agent can start to use, right? So it's orchestrating personalized assets and then executing on a marketing strategy. And so an example would be, you have a local cafe and you want to start promoting your cafe to get more customers to walk through your door, right? Well, you might have a Facebook page, but you don't have Instagram set up yet, and you're getting around, to all of these things, but you just don't have time because you're running your business.
They're giant time sucks. It
Yeah.
takes so much effort.
I mean, anyone that has logged into the Meta Ad Manager
Oh my gosh.
knows how
Yeah.
painful it is.
Yep.
And so if you have a business owner that's trying to do the financials, like, the things that you were talking about, a great leader is good at all three,
Yeah.
but to be successful, you need to be good at two or three. But being good at two of those three things in finance, marketing, that's a full-time job.
You don't have time for a content calendar.
No, you don't. And,
Yeah.
you don't have a budget to pay a professional advertising agency.
Yeah.
And so that's the struggle. And they feel people feel like, small business owners feel like they have to just, well, okay, I'll do $15 a day in Facebook ads, or I'll do Google search ads, or I'll do whatever I can, or my nephew's doing it for me, or my niece, or someone that's younger that understands social media is trying to do it for me.
Yep.
Right. And that's the common theme across all of these small businesses.
Just as a use case for that one, real world, I was advising a company, and it's kind of a joint venture, and one guy's like, "No, I have a person, don't worry." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I'm looking and I'm like, "They posted once last month and it was on a Saturday."
And they charged you a lot.
And they're like, "Well, no, it was his like niece or something."
Oh, okay.
like that.
Right.
And then I was like, "I really care about the success of your company and making sure your marketing system works." And so I actually spoke with the niece, and she's like, "I don't do marketing for him.
Yeah.
I have no time. I'm at like 60 hours a week at my own job."
Right.
So yeah, it's a real struggle. And I mean, not just like a cafe, but I'm imagining developers that build apps on the side and try to get those off the ground. And
yeah. So going back to this cafe, you own a business, you're trying to get customers in your door, and then you sign up for ad prompt. We build the agent for you that represents your business. It starts to understand, your target audience and your market, and creates, relevant assets. And what's really fascinating is that with this type of intelligence, it's almost like the value of speed to market with the right message. Where if there's other cafes, or if you're like a home service business that installs gutters or cleans gutters, right? It's like we're in fall now, and leaves are. My parents live in the North End, so it's just
blowing out sprinklers.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's raking leaves every day for months. But so it's like, okay, there's these businesses that are trying to differentiate themselves, their business, from all the other competing businesses in that local market. Well, if you have a system that will create within minutes the right personalized assets that's published across social media and local digital channels in your local market, and if you can get the right message out before your competitors, that's valuable. And so using AI as like a marketing expert, but also a very intelligent one that's aware of a local market. If you damage, or if you like repair damaged roofs, for an example, and all of a sudden there's a hailstorm, right? You want to get your service out there because
Totally.
people are going to be like, oh my gosh, my roof just got wrecked by this hailstorm. So our system will actually know that there's a hailstorm, and why is that relevant? To whom is it relevant? And then
Interesting.
generate campaigns to then execute campaigns. So it's speed to market where you're capturing all of those leads that are looking for roof repair.
So it's got social listening. It's looking at what other competitors are saying, their messaging. It's looking at what they've been advertising, and then
That's why everything's being scraped. So,
yeah,
RAG, right? So the retrieval augmentation generation is just scraping and learning from every source of
yep,
data.
that's so powerful.
There's more bots online than humans.
Yeah.
Like the activity online is all, I mean, it's not all, but like a lot of it's non-human.
We just acquired a cloud-based marketplace company, and they're pretty successful in other areas of the world, but I'm responsible for taking it to market in the US. And I had a team of 4 work for like 2.5 weeks on deep competitive analysis and market fit placement. And it was like 100-page report.
Yep.
And then at that Vistage meeting, this guy is in there using the simplest AI tools, in the right way.
Less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it was literally like a 20-minute thing, and he brought up this whole. I was
Yeah.
just like, dang it,
Yep.
I gotta stay up. I gotta stay.
So
on front of,
that
in
MIT
front of this.
report that says 95%, didn't see measurable results to the bottom line or the P&L. Like, I can understand why they're saying that. I think a lot of it's going to be fear-based. I think people are still kind of figuring out what's going on.
Oh, sure. Well, the problem with figuring it out is even if you got it figured out today, it's going to be different tomorrow.
But I suggest you start today.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think you need
when to plant a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the practical use of ad prompt is really just helping small businesses, better understand how to better market and advertise their business to grow their business.
So, speaking of the competitive landscape, what other products are out there that might be in line with what you're doing or accomplishing or solving for, and how are you set apart?
So our differentiator is really not just the intelligence layer. So the AI native, application it's a web app. So it's nothing crazy. It's nothing it's special for what it is. It's a standalone product that is going to help a lot of small businesses. But the differentiator comes in a few different areas, but it's the ability to connect demand and supply in a local market. So it's really an intelligence layer that is onboarding small businesses both on a creator publisher side, because a local magazine is a business, right?
Yeah.
So we're not just saying we're going to service businesses that are selling so the product this local print magazine will sell is that magazine, the content, the stories, the photographs.
Yeah.
And so if a system can help them sell ad placements that are print, not digital, that's different, because oftentimes people won't approach that type of business model because historically that hasn't scaled. But with these new tools, with this new technology, we can start to scale hyper-local products and services. And so, but the differentiator is being able to help, content creators and local publishers grow, as well as the local businesses that service a local market. So that's why we're focusing first on the home service vertical, because it requires, the customer to have a physical location. They have a house.
Yeah. Are you focusing solely on small business? Are you getting into mid-market at all?
So we're starting just with small business, but the platform will service the mid-market.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's micro SMB, but SMB. And then, I've talked to some CMOs at major companies. We'll continue to talk about what we're doing at Ad Prompt. And the feedback I've been getting is like, we can probably replace, this is going to sound bad, but replace a lot of the marketing department.
I've had that talk. We have a very openness to our team, and we've had that talk. I had a graphic designer actually like, should I be worried?
Right.
And we're a people first company, which means we care way more about people than money.
Good.
So there's no way we're looking to replace. But what I do see as possible is my team's really thirsty to learn. So I've had my social media strategist become like an SEO expert.
Yeah.
and she loves it. That path and learning and trajectory is awesome. And so how can we automate, I say start with 30%. What can you do with 30% more bandwidth and figure out how to automate that using
Yeah.
AI? And then what can you do with that 30%, even if it's just parking yourself in a learning mode
Yep.
and trying something new on, and just so you can expand your own skills.
Yep. Augment, yes. Give your team a safe environment, start to test with these tools, learn, augment the people.
Yeah.
Don't automate people out of your org.
Yeah. I just watched a couple of videos. One was, I think it's the CEO of OpenAI said something like Jarvis, Marvel, Iron Man, will have Jarvis level capability by 2030 was his estimation. And then another person.
When did you read that?
That was just like 3 weeks ago that I saw the video. I don't remember when it actually got filmed.
I think it was like yesterday. I think Sam Altman said they're going to have AGI in like 28 months or something.
CEO of Claude said 2027. So that fits. Yeah.
Which is weird to have a definitive date on AGI. It's like artificial general intelligence.
Well, if you look at the intelligence spectrum from like GPT-1 flat, 2 slightly inclined, 3 to 4 little still pretty flat, and then you see from 3 to 4 is pretty flat, and then from 4 to 5 is like nearly vertical
because it's compounding exponentially.
Exactly.
So it's like it's not. Yeah, this is getting crazy.
It used to be that AI was as intelligent as like college grads. And now it's to the point where it's as intelligent as the most intelligent humans in history, solving the hardest math problems. They're even looking for new unheard of string theories and stuff. That's way beyond
that's the breakaway superintelligence where it's like when it's starting to conduct its own AI research and the AI is building better AIs. It's just we'll see, I guess. I guess we'll see pretty soon.
What do you see? And we're going to see really soon. So start now, get up to date and start doing the reps. It's actually not scary. It's super fun.
It's a tool.
I argue with Perplexity every morning on my drive into work.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me about this thing. Who's Kenneth the Third? Tell me about his story.
What did it say?
It was like, looking for work-life balance, came from LA. You have all kinds of entrepreneurial experience.
True.
Outdoorsy stuff. And it pulled from Newswire and YouTube videos. And I mean, that was real time in a 5-minute drive.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like I know him so much better than after just reviewing your website.
This is also kind of dangerous when you trust but don't verify.
Sure.
Because now we're no longer. So going back to the incentives and the monetization models of the internet are breaking. This is an example as to why they're breaking, because we're no longer going to the source of that information. We're not reading the articles. You didn't go to Newswire. Newswire, all those articles that I'm sure it's sourced, they're publishers.
Mm-hmm.
They depend on ad revenue to survive. And the threat that we face and have been facing over the last decade is that advertising revenue can be weaponized as a form of censorship, as a form of manipulation, as a form of controlling what, consumers and people understand to be true, why we vote the way we vote. Like advertising is a very important industry.
100%.
And so if we're no longer paying publishers because we're just, zero, there's zero-click SEO and we're just, getting a summary and we're not going to the source of that information, those sources aren't getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're trying to figure out now is now that we have this new emerging technology that is AI and it's getting, serious adoption really quickly, and it's fundamentally breaking these legacy models of the internet, which keeps the internet free. What are we going to do? What are these new financial models? What are these new incentives? What does that look like? And so going to incentivized LLMs is one potential model where you can incentivize a summary output, in a way that not just covers the cost of compute to provide that output, right? But to have the operator of that output or the operator of those agents, those LLMs, generate revenue in new novel ways. But there's risk to that too, because now if we're relying on these LLMs, for information, we need to understand how is it coming to these conclusions? Because the fear, or at least my fear, is that we are going to completely give up our free will and we're just going to take, what we get at face value as truth. and then we're,
I mean, it happens already. I use
that's
social media for educational purposes. Usually, the people I follow or what they're sharing. But if I'm looking for a laugh, I'll follow a red channel and a blue channel
sure, yeah.
and see what they're putting out and the narratives that it's herd manipulation is such a thing, which it really, in the simplest form, is marketing.
But I think we're seeing the byproduct of that right now, like the conflicts. I
Mhm.
mean, there was the whole Cracker Barrel rebrand fiasco,
Gosh.
which got
Yeah.
so much attention. I was like, what are we
Uh-huh.
talking about here?
Yeah.
Leaving my personal opinion about the rebrand aside, it was interesting to read, about how they actually they fired the agency that did the rebrand, the logo for Cracker Barrel, and I'm not sure if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but it just took a very well-known, long-standing brand logo of Cracker Barrel, the restaurant, and they completely rebranded it, and people were up in arms. They just
Yeah.
didn't like it. People innately don't like change, but they fired the agency that did the rebrand. They had to apologize, and then they hired a research team to figure out why there was so much backlash or uproar,
Hmm.
and they found that close to 30% of all of the negative feedback online was bots.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's so annoying.
And so it's
Ugh.
so if these bots exist and they might not even know what they're botting about, right? It's
Right.
just create outrage, right? So these algorithms over time for social media have been fine-tuned and optimized towards profits because they're centralized to that platform, whether it's Facebook, Google. They control that within the walled garden of that platform. They control everything.
Yeah.
It's their environment.
Totally.
And
Reddit is a great example of that.
yeah.
Reddit's filled with bots that you get post boosted, you get all this engagement,
Yeah.
it's all controversy in different ways.
So these
and-
bots exist. They'll create fake profiles. They'll inspire outrage and create extremism on both sides for higher engagement. And so it's a flywheel of a perverse incentive that makes more money.
Mhm.
And if you ask Google how their algorithms work, or ask Meta how their algorithms work, why is this ad placed in front of this account?
Mhm.
They won't tell you.
Yeah.
It's a black box. And so I think that if you can create a new incentive model for, an open web that's based on a more of a deterministic infrastructure that powers this new intelligence layer, which is probabilistic with AI outputs, then you could have the opportunity to create more transparent algorithms where you can reward quality and value versus extremism and
Sure.
just engagement with a black box algorithm with fake accounts on both sides.
We're kind of dancing around it, talking about this, and then previously talking about what is possible in the web space. But how do you see this new technology really changing marketing as we know it?
Fundamentally, it's all of it.
Share more.
All of it.
Maybe some specifics.
Well, going back to, I guess you talked about SEO. So search engine optimization, really the ability for Google to control and drive online traffic to web pages, and then have those web pages set up to capture, inbound traffic,
Mhm.
because their whole marketing stack and monetization strategy is based on those links, those 10 blue links, where paid search is something you can't avoid.
Yeah.
And what made Google one of the most the search engine and the way Google monetized paid search was probably one of the most profitable tools, the most profitable technologies ever created.
Yeah.
Um,
And now we're, even as a team, we're going back through all of our content and redoing our blogs in Q&A format they call it AIO. I don't know if I'm totally behind that yet.
There's new now we got to learn all the new acronyms.
Yeah.
I was
So
like, oh man,
AI optimization, where SEO, solid SEO still has a place currently.
sure.
But the way that agents look at the information as it's portrayed and how easy is it to understand, and that's why this new Q&A format, we're looking at a pretty big overhaul on content and website right now.
Well, it's funny, there's always human in the loop. You have to have human in the loop for better performance, but that's not necessarily true always,
Sure.
depending on the use case, right?
Yeah.
So you're now having to structure, the schema of an HTML or how a machine will read a web page versus like how humans will read things. So now we're catering to a different thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. This new thing is taking control because humans by nature have gravitated towards convenience, and this is a very easy way to get information, to do things, to learn, to XYZ, name it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how marketing is changing is it's across every aspect of marketing. It really is.
And the whole litany of, I mean, if you don't have powered by AI in your tagline, like you're behind as a product in some way, shape, or form. So there's all these products out there, especially in the market. I mean, I'm a marketer, but I don't really like getting marketed to.
Yeah.
Especially with the things where it's like, hey, did you get my last email? And I'm like, this is the
There's a
first
lot of
email you've ever
noise.
sent me.
Yeah.
Anyways, lots of products out there that currently exist. How would you advise folks, SMBs, to take a look at maybe the cautions around looking or paying for certain things? How do you identify what's real value versus like hype?
Yeah, this is tough because there's tons of hype, right? There's AI tools sprouting up like mushrooms everywhere, and you're just like you can't avoid it. And so I think a good place to start would be to talk to people, talk to each other, see what's working for this person, what for that person. Engage with your local. I always encourage working with real humans, working with people, and learning from others. And so talk to your local community and ask, just attend local networking events, ask what's working, just learn in different ways other than just asking chat, hey, what are all the tools that I should use?
Right.
That's one source. Talk to your local community of business owners. That's another source. But for me personally, it's really about just rolling up your sleeves and jump into it and just start learning yourself, experiment. Just say, okay, what's one aspect of my business that I need help with, right? And then start researching what tools exist to help with this one aspect of my business that I need help with.
Sure.
And then just start testing. What's cool about these new tools is, focus on the free trials, or like, you can start using it for free and then get an idea more or less of how this tool works. And if you can get how quickly can you learn if this is going to be a tool that will actually help you, and it more importantly is going to be worth your money.
I heard an interesting podcast from Dan Martell recently where he was talking about spend some time really looking and auditing at your daily calendar of the things that you're doing. Hopefully you're kind of dialed in on not being distracted and work blocks for different things, but look at the audit and then figure out, what don't I want to do here?
Yeah.
And either solve for it with a human or solve for it with a product.
100%. And then focus on the tools that actually allow you to either audit or measure results. Like if you don't have the receipts of like what's happening, or if you're not able to actually measure the results in meaningful ways that you understand, then it could just be marketing theater, where if you truly don't understand the result of what you're doing with this particular tool or subscription or whatever you're using, that's really important.
Yeah.
And so just focus on how can you make everything measurable to a degree.
So what are you doing with Ad Prompt AI outside of using yourself? Like what other MarTech tools are you looking at to get yourself out there?
To be honest,
strategy
I'm not looking at too many tools right now. We're still building.
Okay.
So we have Ad Prompt AI, we have Ad Chain, which is this decentralized consensus infrastructure for agentic advertising, and then we have Ad Token, which is a digital asset that's native to this new ecosystem that we're releasing next year.
Got it.
So that's where my time is spent building that.
And when are you looking to go to hardcore go to market?
Q1. So we'll be live quietly in December.
Mm-hmm.
But when we publicly launch, I want to have legitimate, well-respected companies already on board using it. I want to show real network traction in terms of validating and verifying transactions, agent-to-agent transactions within the ad chain network. I want there to be some respectable volumes of transactions before we make a public announcement.
I might know of a team that could use help.
Yeah,
we could be your guinea pig.
Sure.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, since since it's not applicable yet to ad prompt, given your history, your experiences, we're talking about AI in the marketing space, solely in the marketing space. What's the number one place you would tell marketing leaders to look at AI? Like, what's the first place where they can optimize with real ROI,
Optimize with real AI. I think
real ROI
oh,
using AI? Yeah.
real ROI using AI. I think it's just really understanding as good companies and good teams do understand their operations, their processes, their workflows, where their money is being spent, and the result of that expense for the business. I think it's just looking at that and mapping it to these new tools. And then I think we already touched on it, where you just encourage a safe environment to start experimenting with these new tools, these AI tools, and then just make sure you have a way to measure the output, the results. What is the impact to this particular part of the business? What are the measurable results? What's the ROI
Hmm.
on the investment? And then just incrementally continue to just experiment and then slowly adjust your operational processes for your business, right? Where you're
Yeah.
and then kind of evolve and adapt versus like burn it all down. Let's just
Yeah.
rip it out and replace it with this frontier model that does
Totally.
everything. And then they're going to be like, oh, the unintended consequences of making rash decisions because of, maybe a quick buck.
I'm gonna butcher the story, but I recently read an article. I forget the guy's name. He raised something like 140 million to have AI entirely do end to end, soup to nuts. I think it may have been for a manufacturing
Did
business
it
or
wipe the
something.
database?
And no, they just failed
Yeah.
spectacularly. They were at like a run rate of negative 110 million or something like that.
Well, I think a lot of those types of reports and instances that we'll read about is really going to be someone that capitalized on the hype, raised a ton of money, and failed to execute. And
That's exactly what it
and
was.
it's not necessarily a result of the technology failing. It's more so the people, leadership, maybe the wrong process in place. It's really you know that's a lot of the reasons.
Yeah, they were saying that you have a mind that's made for the technology side, but you don't have that operational side necessarily, and so you try to take that technology, put it into this space, and then you be the operator of it too, and then that's where
Yeah.
things can go downhill.
Yeah, that's what makes great teams great teams is
Yeah,
they're diversified in their skill set.
totally.
You can't be great at everything.
I
And
don't
if
I don't
you
want to
think
be.
you are, then stay away from that
Yeah,
person because that's not true. It's
yeah.
not how it works.
So I still have a question mark over my head around the trust component. Yeah, I
Yeah.
told you I was arguing with Perplexity pretty regularly. I'm not going to sit there and go fact check everything. That's going to take way too long. I'd rather just do the traditional Google search and read some articles, but I also don't want to do that because
Yep.
it's time consuming.
Yep.
So, with trust being the currency in marketing, we're talking about AI, blockchain coming together, creating environments where there's accountability with incentivized LLMs.
Yep.
We're not quite there yet, but what do you see in that space? What should we be doing with the trust, or what cautions should we be considering?
I think the caution immediately is, don't give this AI complete authority to do whatever, right? Like as like a master administrator of your entire, systems.
Yeah.
Like we've seen that go wrong real quick for a lot of people that, jumped headfirst into this AI world that we're now in. Um, I think the trust element is critical. I think it solves a major alignment problem that we still have. Alignment meaning, is this AI acting in the best interest of people, or are these agents working together ultimately in the best interest of whatever we're tasking them to do? Is everything aligned? And what I loved initially when I first read the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper in 2000. So they released Satoshi Nakamoto released the white paper in 2009, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer cash payment system, or something along those lines for the title of the paper. It's a short paper. It's like around 11 pages. I recommend everyone read it. What I loved about that paper and kind of the aha moment for me and the epiphany that I came away with was that here is a combination of existing technologies that when working together aligned the incentives um, for everyone that's participating. And I was like, that was for me kind of the magic, where for the first time you could have participants within a network operate and be aligned with the incentives versus the the current supply chain of digital advertising. There's perverse incentives across the entire supply chain, where an advertiser that's spending $1 is incentivized to maybe underreport the number of advertising impressions they serve, because that's what they pay for. They want what they want, but they want it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the sell side, which in between the buy side and sell side, you're going to have like 16 companies in the supply chain, which is unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they all take a cut. So by the time the demand side, the advertiser spends $1, that content creator or publisher might get 10 cents.
Right.
And if that's even and if the advertiser is even reaching a real human with that, with 10 cents, everyone else in the middle gets paid. They don't care. That was the rude awakening to me trying to solve for ad fraud with blockchain technology, was that the industry, a lot of the industry didn't care about fraud. And so the trust and alignment, building an agentic agent to agent, supply chain with aligned incentives on top of a decentralized infrastructure where these agents are identifiable and accountable, gives you the ability to be a human in that loop, to be able to say, okay, if this agent is misbehaving, they're no longer, they're identifiable. You can hold them accountable, and they're no longer able to take action in this network.
Sure.
You turn them off.
Now you're not the only one that's concerned with this or passionate about this. You sent me some materials last night about AdCP and the group of folks like Yahoo and others that are getting together, and they're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year creating this network to basically do exactly what you're talking about. Is that right?
Not exactly, but they are. So AdCP is this new agentic protocol. And so if you think about agentic, it's like cloud computing, where it's like it became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So agentic is more so the, AI web, how these chatbots, how these AI agents, these LLMs are starting to, interact with, not just humans, but each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of this super bloom that we're experiencing is agentic. And so AdCP was announced by a person by the name of Brian O'Kelly, who is considered to be the godfather of programmatic advertising. So he's just a really well-known person in advertising tech. And so he, back in the day, was, I think, the CTO of Right Media, which invented a lot of the technology that automated the buying and selling of digital ad space online. So they created, I think Riker. So from that work inspired real-time bidding, which powers these real-time auction houses. This is kind of wild, actually, so I'll touch on it. But you could actually hold an auction event where you have multiple advertisers bidding to serve their ad to this person, right? It's hyper targeted.
Yeah.
And so there's downsides to this, which I can get into, but from the privacy and manipulation standpoint, there's downsides, and hyper targeting to a person versus contextually targeting the content that a person is engaging with. There's some nuance there.
Yeah.
But so these auction houses, it's really sophisticated, and it's all these servers, and you could execute this auction and deliver this payload, which is an ad, to this specific person somewhere on the internet in under 80 milliseconds.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's so intense.
That's happening billions of times every day. You go online and you're just emitting so much data. That data is being, captured, structured, auctioned off, and then you're seeing all these ads.
How does a tool like GPT Atlas that recently came out? So it's a browser. It follows and tracks everything you do if you let it, and probably even if you don't let it. I don't know, but
so Atlas is like, it's an observer to Chromium. So it's like, OpenAI just wrapped the Chromium browser, which is essentially Google, right? Google Chrome, and you're now interacting with it, where it's aware of your behavior online. So it's just it's just like following. It's just watching you use the internet.
It can help you reshop for things you previously shopped for. It can pull up things you searched for last week. And you're like, what's that one thing? So how does it getting to know you so well? I mean, Google already knew us pretty well way before that. If you have a Gmail, like you've got a lot of information out there, but
Oh, Google knows all of us.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now with
Microsoft
something
knows
like
all of us.
Atlas,
Yeah.
how much more targeted can audiences get to? Because I'm sure that
Scary more.
behavior is going to
I think it's
make it
gonna.
out
I think
there.
it's gonna be scary. How
Yeah.
this is what I get into. Like, if trust is the currency, can we trust these new AI? Like, privacy is going to be, it is and will continue to be a major issue. Like, I don't know how to. It's
I don't.
I don't know how to
I don't like
overstate it.
ending it. Like I don't like because I don't have a response. I'm like, yes, that's a bummer.
So going. I want to touch back on the ad CP. So the ad context protocol, the agent and signal protocols. So this is the agentic advertising protocols that are now independent of all of the existing advertising protocols that power the $1 trillion, or it transacts over $300 billion every year in these pipes.
Mhm.
You know, it's like akin to the banking SWIFT protocol, but instead of wiring funds from one bank to another, you're sending data from one server to
Right.
another. And so these protocols are now evolving to be more agentic. There's these new protocols that were just announced, and 20 major companies are supporting it. We'll see. It's early, but I think there's it's definitely the beginning of something.
Yeah.
And then to the privacy point, I think touching on for advertising these new, like Sam Altman and OpenAI, they're like, oh, we're not focused on advertising. Everything becomes an ad network eventually. Like you can't avoid it. It's just too valuable. But you need to be responsible with how you're building these technologies in the context of advertising, because you're enabling the ability to not just tell a story to a target audience and a potential consumer, but you're able to manipulate them. So when we talk about like advertising, effective creatives and advertising campaigns can win the hearts and minds, right? Well, the same methodologies and the same technologies can be used to not just win the hearts and minds of a consumer to buy more Nike shoes, but it could be to do whatever.
Yeah. Sway them
And so
politically, sway. Yeah.
And so now if you have the most powerful artificial intelligence backed by the largest compute cluster in history following you online, learning about everything you do, everything you see, everything you engage with, it starts to understand who you are at the most intimate level to a point. Like, for example, if you were to go to Facebook or Meta and you were to request to download your metadata file. So by law, all of the social media platforms require, their users to be able to download this zip file that contains all the information that company has about that person.
Right.
If you were to take that zip file, give it to chat, just upload it, OpenAI would now know more about you than you know about yourself, just from that one file.
Totally. That's
just one file from one platform. So now give it access to that and your internet browser and your mobile device and what world do we live in 10 years? I don't know.
I'm like, what world are we going to live in next year?
I know. Well, I'm optimistic, so I said.
That's not cynicism. That's just curiosity.
Well, I think curiosity requires a healthy dose of cynicism. I think you need to be curious, but you need to be also, you can't. I mean, I'm 39 years old. I've learned a lot by living a lot of life, and I've learned by doing. And the universe, if you listen, tells you what you need to know. You just got to listen. And you can't, it's like, for me, try not to repeat the same mistake twice. I just continue to grow. But I put myself out there and I'm willing to make mistakes. And
which is just learning.
Yeah. Right. That's evolution. The thing about this type of learning, we're biological. Our evolution is billions of years in the making. And we're programmed at birth. To a degree, we already have knowledge. Now, we're carbon-based, but this silicone-based intelligence is born without anything, but it learns not just faster, but it's different. It's a different type of evolution that
Mhm.
we're seeing, and it's so fast. So the merge between biological humans and this silicone-based intelligence, we're not programmed to keep up with this. And when we start to integrate our lives with artificial intelligence, mentally, mental health is a real thing. And it's super important that I think more people should care about. I think people should be more willing to be vulnerable, to ask for help, or, to be okay if you don't know everything, or if you're wrong about something, or if you have a strong belief, it should be okay to exist, in a world where there's humanity, and it's okay to be wrong, or okay to learn, in different ways. Um, but when we start to integrate and become dependent on this technology that almost everyone doesn't understand, um, I just don't know how we're going to adapt. So it's important that, we start experimenting today, and we kind of ease into it. We don't replace humans, we augment
Mhm.
each other. Um, but understand, like, try to understand how it works. Try not to become super dependent, try not to become addicted.
Well, there's even ramifications in the education system of the different type of learning that your brain does when you have the answer at your fingertips versus you have to create the answer through research,
Yeah.
and what that's doing to the capabilities of humans, the next generation that are budding
Yeah.
right now. So,
As soon as the next generation,
yeah.
not even like, let's say just the long arc of time. Like, if we're not using our imaginations, in early developmental phases growing up, and if we're not, pushing ourselves to learn by doing things, by just writing,
Yep. Yeah.
taking original thoughts from your brain, right? From your consciousness, like wherever that comes from, using that versus just that's an output, right? That's inside out versus just being fed something where it's outside in, where you're just taking inputs. So you're not working,
Mhm.
yourself to create those outputs from inside. You're just acting based on external inputs, and you're just using that to feed your system. And
Sure.
if you that's when you're not going to be as smart. Maybe you're not going to have enough perspective to approach a certain problem. Um,
Critical thinking things. I always ask at the end of the interview, like, what's the one piece of wisdom you'd share with people? But it kind of sounds like you just answered that, as far as invest in your mental health, invest in the
yeah,
research and the work, and the not expecting the easy route to be the best route for you in the long run.
yeah.
Would you add anything to that, or
Yeah,
is
maybe that's
that
why
kind of it?
perplexity said I'm working on, work-life balance. I would say just yeah, just be disciplined in a way with your time. Spend time with those you love, friends, family. Learn from humans. Um, Learn by doing, for yourself, because oftentimes you can read a book. You can learn a lot by reading. You can learn in different ways by doing. But until you actually get out there into the real world, see something, smell something, taste something, just like I said earlier, roll up your sleeves and do it.
Yeah.
And the universe will tell you what you need to know. And you just have to be willing to get out there, fall down, get up, learn, and listen to the universe and listen to each other. And yeah, I think just focus on the trust and the bonds between humans, and then use this as a tool, but don't put the tool in front of our relationships with each other.
And I hope for those listening, like, really take that on. Not just like, "Oh,
That's
that's
the
good
discipline.
advice,"
That's a
but
discipline part.
yeah, like understand that's what it takes,
Yeah.
not just this is a good soundbite or something like that.
Yeah.
So, 2 rapid fire lighthearted questions for you, and
Sure.
then we'll sign out. Um, what is your by far favorite, maybe not most useful, but what's your favorite AI tool? How do you use it?
Oh, my favorite, right? I mean, my dailies chat GPT. It's so good for like everyday use case, kind of just a general frontier model that's capable across different fields, or just use cases, whether it's deep research or the operator or the pulse, or like there's so much there.
Mhm.
There's so much there.
Which, pro tip, by the way, take it off of auto and put it onto thinking always.
Yeah.
It's gonna perform so much better for you.
And then another, I really enjoy the audio aspect of AIs as well. I like to, not just read the output, but hear it. I like to, I like to listen.
Conversationally, I mean, I think just to be transparent, I like audiobooks more than reading the book, unless it's like workbook style or something where I need to be in seeing the graphics. But that works really well for me, having conversations with it.
Yeah.
And now, I take your caution.
Yeah.
Sources are important. But yeah, I enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
And so next question, what's the funniest or most ridiculous AI tool you've seen so far?
The funniest. So I'm going to go back a little bit, and it's not like a cutting edge new AI tool, but there was this website that I randomly discovered online. I think it's called Pointer.
Okay.
It's like pointer.com. So it's not, the AI isn't necessarily magic, but what it is, it's a website that just has randomized images where if you scroll your mouse on the screen and click, the next image will load. It's just a static image, and it's going to be of people pointing to your mouse wherever it is on the screen. So then you put your mouse up here and click, and then there's going to be a funny picture of someone just pointing, and then pointing right to the mouse. So not AI, but I thought that was fun. I guess there's so much out there.
There's a cool website called there'sanaIforthat.com, which you go in and you just search for whatever tool like Excel, and then it'll load all of these tools that are built for Excel. But I think the funniest one I've personally seen is Pickle AI.
Okay.
So it face maps you, and then I can be in a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or whatever. I could be on the couch in my chonies eating Cheetos with my mic nearby and speaking into the meeting, but what you'll see on screen is this polished guy in a suit that looks exactly like me. I found out about that.
So now you just gave your biometric fingerprint to
Yep.
So we'll see what Pickle does with it.
Yep. Well, this is awesome, man. Thanks so much for investing time with us.
Thanks
and loved learning more about what you're passionate about. And I think this was an awesome conversation.
Likewise.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for watching this In Time Tech podcast. If you'd like to learn more about what we can offer you, please visit our website, intimetech.com, where you'll be able to see the different capabilities and technologies we could provide you in your business. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow us to get more amazing content like this. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.